The notification hit my phone at 2:47 a.m. while I was reviewing supply manifests in my quarters on Andersen Air Force Base. My name is Anders Yates. I'm 32 years old, Marine Captain stationed on temporary duty in Guam. Been deployed here for 8 months, running logistics operations in the Pacific Theater. The message wasn't from command. It was from my credit monitoring app. New inquiry detected on your credit report. I stared at the screen. Nobody should be running credit checks on me. Especially not at this hour. The inquiry came from something called Veterans Legal Services Group in Phoenix, Arizona. I'd never heard of them. I opened the app. The inquiry timestamp showed 11:23 p.m. Mountain Time. Yesterday, someone had pulled my full credit report, including military service verification. My hands went cold. I called the credit bureau's automated line. Punched through the menu options until I reached Dispute Services. The system confirmed the inquiry. Veterans Legal Services Group had requested comprehensive military records verification as part of what they called a, quote, disability benefits claim review. I wasn't filing any disability claims. I pulled up my laptop and searched for Veterans Legal Services Group. Their website looked legitimate. Professional photos. Testimonials from satisfied veterans. They specialized in appealing denied VA claims and maximizing disability ratings. But I'd never contacted them. The phone buzzed again. Another notification. This time from my bank's mobile app. Someone had attempted to access my account from an IP address in Phoenix. The login failed because of two-factor authentication, but they'd tried 3 times. I scrolled through my recent account activity. Everything looked normal until I reached last Tuesday. A small charge I didn't recognize. $15 to something called Document Express Services. I Googled the company. They provided certified copies of military records for veterans and their families. My chest tightened. Someone was building a file on me. Using my credit. Accessing my service records. And they were doing it while I was 7,000 miles away, with limited ability to investigate. I grabbed my secure phone and started dialing the fraud hotline for my bank. The automated system put me on hold. While I waited, I opened my email and searched for anything from Veterans Legal Services Group or Document Express Services. Nothing in my inbox. Nothing in spam. But someone had my social security number. My military ID number. Enough personal information to convince credit agencies and document services that they were authorized to access my records. The bank representative finally answered. I explained the situation. She put me on hold again while she reviewed my account. When she came back, her voice had changed. Sir, I'm showing some unusual activity we need to discuss. Can you verify your current address? I gave her my APO address on base. That's not matching what we have on file. Someone updated your address last week to a residential address in Phoenix, Arizona. The room started spinning. The Phoenix address belonged to a townhouse complex called Desert Springs. I wrote down the street number and apartment unit. The bank representative confirmed someone had called 3 days ago claiming to be me, requesting the address change for temporary relocation due to military orders. They'd used my mother's maiden name as verification. Only family knew that information. I hung up and immediately called my father in Colorado. It was past midnight his time, but this couldn't wait. Anders? Everything okay, son? Dad, I need to ask you something. Has anyone been asking about my military service? My benefits? Anything like that? Silence stretched across the satellite connection. Well, Diane mentioned she was helping research some veteran programs. Said she wanted to understand what benefits you might be eligible for when you get back. Diane. His girlfriend of 8 months. The woman he'd met at a church singles group after Mom died 2 years ago. What kind of research? I don't know the details. She's been spending a lot of time on her computer lately. Said she was learning about VA disability claims and how to help veterans get what they deserve. My stomach dropped. Dad, did you give her any of my personal information? Just basic stuff. Your service dates, where you're stationed. She asked about your deployments for some kind of timeline she was putting together. Did you give her my social security number? Another pause. She said she needed it to check if you were already in some veteran database. I thought it would help. I closed my eyes. Diane had everything she needed. Dad, I need you to listen carefully. Someone has been using my identity to access my military records and change my banking information. The address they used is in Phoenix. Where does Diane live? Phoenix. But Anders, you can't seriously think. I need you to go to her place, right now. Don't call first. Just show up and see what she's doing. It's almost 1 in the morning. Dad, someone is stealing my identity while I'm deployed. If it's not Diane, then we need to figure out who has access to my information through her. He agreed to drive over and call me back. I spent the next hour researching Veterans Legal Services Group. Their business license was legitimate, filed in Arizona 6 months ago. The owner was listed as Diane Patricia Kellerman. My father's girlfriend had started a fake veterans advocacy business using my service record as her first case study. When Dad called back, his voice was shaky. She's not here. But I used the spare key she gave me. Anders, there's a whole office set up in her spare bedroom. Files everywhere. Computers. A printer that's been running constantly. What kind of files? Military documents with your name on them. Bank statements. Something that looks like a disability claim form. And there's a stack of checks made out to Veterans Legal Services Group. How much? I can see 3 of them. $1,500 each. All from different people. Diane wasn't just stealing my identity. She was running a scam operation, using my legitimate military service to build credibility with other veterans. She'd file fake disability claims, collect fees up front, then disappear when the claims were denied. Dad, don't touch anything. Take pictures with your phone and get out of there. There's something else. A letter from the VA addressed to you, but sent to her address. It's already been opened. What does it say? It's approving a 30% disability rating for PTSD and awarding you $1,200 in monthly benefits, retroactive to 6 months ago. My hands started shaking. I'd never filed for disability benefits. I didn't have PTSD, but Diane had somehow convinced the VA that I did, using forged medical records and a fake address. She'd been collecting my disability payments for months. Dad, call the police. Tell them you've discovered identity theft and fraud. Don't let Diane know you were there. What if I'm wrong about her? The VA letter is proof. I never filed those claims. She forged my signature and stole my benefits. After hanging up, I calculated the damage. 6 months of disability payments at $1,200 per month. $7,200 in stolen benefits. Plus, whatever she'd collected from other veterans through her fake advocacy business. But the real violation went deeper than money. Diane had weaponized my service record. She'd created a false narrative about my mental health and submitted it to the government as fact. In the military database, I was now flagged as having PTSD. That could affect my security clearance, my career, my entire future. I opened my laptop and started documenting everything. Screenshots of the bank notifications. Photos of the Veterans Legal Services Group website. The timeline of when Dad started dating Diane versus when the fraudulent activity began. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Anders, this is Diane. Your father told me about your concerns. I think there's been a misunderstanding. Can we talk? She was trying to control the narrative. But I had now. I forwarded everything to my unit's legal officer and requested emergency leave to handle a family crisis. Then I called the VA fraud hotline and reported the fake disability claim. The investigator who answered took detailed notes and assigned me a case number. She explained that VA benefit fraud was a federal crime, punishable by up to 10 years in prison. We'll need you to provide a sworn statement that you never filed these claims, she said. I'm deployed overseas. How do I do that? We can arrange for a military legal officer to take your statement and it to us. This case will be prioritized because it involves active duty military. By morning, I had a plan. Emergency leave approved, flight home scheduled for the next day, and a meeting set up with both the VA fraud investigators and the FBI's white-collar crime unit. Diane had made one critical mistake. She'd used my real military service record to build her credibility, but that same record would prove I was deployed when the claims were filed. The timestamps on the VA paperwork would show the applications were submitted from Phoenix while I was verifiably on duty in Guam. The flight from Guam to Phoenix took 18 hours. I spent most of it reviewing and preparing for what came next. Agent Johnson, from the Insurance Commissioner's office, met me at Sky Harbor Airport. She was younger than I expected, maybe early 30s, with the kind of sharp focus that comes from handling fraud cases daily. Captain Yates, I've reviewed your preliminary report. This is more extensive than typical benefit fraud. Your stepmother-to-be has been operating a sophisticated scheme. We drove straight to the FBI field office downtown. Special Agent Martinez from the White Collar Crime Unit was waiting with a stack of files. We've been tracking Veterans Legal Services Group for 3 months, Martinez said. Diane Kellerman has filed fraudulent disability claims for 17 different veterans. Total damages exceed $400,000. The scope hit me like a physical blow. This wasn't just about me. How many of those veterans are currently deployed? I asked. 12. All overseas. All with no knowledge their service records were being used. They showed me the full operation. Diane had been targeting military families through social media groups and veteran support forums. She'd pose as a benefits advocate, offer free help with VA paperwork, then use the personal information to file fraudulent claims. The money went into accounts she controlled, supposedly for processing fees and legal representation. But the veterans never saw a dime. Your father provided her with access to your personal documents, Agent Johnson explained. Birth certificate, social security card, military ID photos. Everything she needed to build a convincing case file. My phone rang. Dad's number. Answer it, Martinez said. But keep him talking. We need to understand how much he knows. Anders, thank God you're home. Diane told me there's been some kind of mix-up with your benefits. She's trying to fix it. What kind of mix-up, Dad? Something about paperwork getting filed wrong. She said the VA might have made an error with your disability rating. She's been working for weeks to straighten it out. He genuinely believed he was helping. Diane had convinced him she was advocating for me, not stealing from me. Dad, I need you to do something for me. Can you ask Diane to meet us somewhere? Tell her I want to thank her for all her help. Of course. She'll be so relieved. She's been worried sick about this whole situation. Agent Martinez was already setting up recording equipment. The plan was simple. Get Diane to admit what she'd done. On tape, with federal agents as witnesses. We arranged to meet at a coffee shop near Dad's house. Neutral ground. Public enough that she wouldn't suspect a setup, but quiet enough for clear audio. I arrived first and took a corner table. Martinez and Johnson positioned themselves at separate tables nearby, looking like regular customers. Dad walked in with Diane at exactly 3 o'clock. She looked nervous, but tried to hide it behind a bright smile. Anders, honey, I'm so glad we can clear this up, she said, sitting across from me. There's been a terrible misunderstanding. Tell me about the VA claims you filed for me. Her smile faltered slightly. Well, I was trying to help. Your father mentioned you'd been having some difficulties adjusting since you started. I thought you might qualify for benefits you weren't receiving. What kind of difficulties? You know, the stress of military service. The trauma. It's more common than people think. Dad nodded along, completely unaware of what was really happening. So you filed a PTSD claim on my behalf? I submitted some preliminary paperwork to see if you qualified. Nothing official, just an inquiry. She was lying smoothly, but I had the documentation to prove it. Diane, I've seen the actual claim forms. They're not preliminary inquiries, they're full disability applications with forged signatures. The color drained from her face. Dad looked confused. Anders, what are you talking about? He asked. I pulled out my phone and showed him screenshots of the VA paperwork. His expression changed as he read through the fabricated medical history. Diane, did you really file these? He asked quietly. I was trying to help, she repeated, but her voice was shaking now. Help by claiming I have severe PTSD when I don't? Help by forging my signature on federal documents? Help by stealing money from the VA? I never stole anything. The money was for processing fees and legal representation. What legal representation? You're not a lawyer. You're not even a licensed benefits advocate. Agent Martinez stood up and approached our table. Diane Kellerman. I'm Special Agent Martinez with the FBI. You're under arrest for federal benefit fraud. The coffee shop went silent. Dad stared in shock as Martinez read Diane her rights. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. Diane started crying, but it felt calculated. One last manipulation attempt. I was just trying to help veterans get what they deserved, she sobbed. The system is so complicated. They needed someone to navigate it for them. By filing false claims and keeping the money? Agent Johnson had joined us now, her badge visible. The fees were legitimate. I provided a service. You provided fraud, I said. And you used my father to do it. Dad finally spoke up. Diane, is this true? Did you really steal from Anders? She looked at him with tears streaming down her face. Richard, you have to believe me. I love you. I love your son. I would never hurt either of you. But the brand was overwhelming. The forged signatures. The fabricated medical records. The bank accounts in her name receiving VA payments for claims I never filed. As they led her away in handcuffs, she turned back to Dad one last time. Richard, please, don't let them destroy what we have. Dad didn't respond. He was staring at the table, processing the fact that the woman he'd planned to marry had been systematically defrauding the government using his son's identity. 3 weeks later, Diane pled guilty to 17 counts of federal benefit fraud. The judge sentenced her to 6 years in federal prison and ordered full restitution to the VA. The money she'd stolen from my fraudulent claim was returned, but the damage to my military record took months to repair. The false PTSD diagnosis had to be formally expunged from every database. Agent Johnson helped me contact the other 16 victims. Most were still deployed, completely unaware their benefits had been compromised. I spent hours on video calls explaining what had happened and helping them navigate the recovery process. Dad and I didn't speak for 2 months. When we finally talked, he was a different person. Quieter, more careful about trust. I'm sorry, son. I should have seen through her lies. She was good at what she did, Dad. Professional manipulators always are. The VA fraud unit asked me to speak at training sessions for their investigators. Sharing my story helped them identify similar schemes, targeting deployed military personnel. But the real victory came 6 months later, when Diane's entire network was exposed. The FBI traced her connections to other fake advocacy groups operating across the Southwest. 43 additional arrests. Over $2 million in fraudulent claims recovered. 12 months later, I'm back stateside at Camp Pendleton. The California sun feels different now. Warmer somehow. My security clearance was fully restored after the VA completed their investigation. The false PTSD diagnosis disappeared from every system. My record shows what it always should have. Clean service. No mental health flags. No fraudulent claims. Dad moved to San Diego to be closer to me. We have dinner every Sunday at the same diner near base. He's dating again, but slowly this time. Background checks have become his new hobby. Trust but verify, he says, quoting Reagan. Should have learned that lesson earlier. The VA fraud unit still calls me occasionally. New cases involving deployed personnel. Identity theft schemes targeting military families. I help when I can, sharing what I learned about digital footprints and document verification. Agent Johnson was promoted to regional supervisor. She sends me updates on similar cases across the country. Diane's network led to policy changes in how the VA processes claims for deployed service members. Additional verification steps. Mandatory identity confirmation for all advocacy representatives. 3 weeks ago, I testified via video link at a congressional hearing on military benefit fraud. The committee was drafting new legislation to protect deployed troops from identity theft. My case became part of the official record. The other victims from Diane's scheme have all recovered their benefits and cleared their records. We formed an informal support network, sharing information about suspicious activity targeting military families. I partner with legal aid to represent troops in denied claims cases. Real cases this time. Veterans who actually need help navigating the system. My phone buzzes with legitimate notifications now. Pay deposits. Training schedules. Messages from Marines in my unit. No more mysterious alerts at 2:47 a.m. about benefits I never applied for. The hypervigilance has faded. I don't check my credit report daily anymore. Don't scan every document for forged signatures. Don't question every phone call from unknown numbers. But I'm more careful now, more aware of how easily trust can be weaponized against those who serve. Dad keeps Diane's mugshot in his wallet, not as a reminder of her, but as a reminder of what he almost lost. His relationship with his son, his faith in his own judgment, his ability to see through carefully constructed lies. She was good, he told me last Sunday over coffee. But she wasn't good enough. The silence between us isn't uncomfortable anymore. It's earned, built on truth instead of deception, strengthened by surviving something that could have destroyed us both. I'm planning to re-enlist next year. The Corps feels like home again. My record is clean. My future is mine to write. It was finally over, and the silence felt earned.